Honorable Deputy Speaker, sir, I beg to move a short duration discussion under Rule 50 of the Rules of Procedure and Conduct Business. Under the caption, 6th Schedule Amendment, Meghalaya Cabinet decides on number of seats in EDC, appearing in the local English daily, Shillong Times, dated 28th of January 2022, sir.
Initiate a discussion.
Sir, at the outset, I'd like to thank you for admitting this very important short duration discussion on the Rules 50, the Rules of Procedure and Conduct Business, pertaining to legislation that people are looking up to and waiting for its approval by the Parliament, that will bring a lot of hope and take along the aspirations of the people as we move ahead in our state, sir. Sir, the bill or the draft bill has already been prepared and being circulated, which in fact will be, if passed by Parliament, would be the 125th Amendment to the Constitution of India, sir. And the background of this bill can be read in the Statement of Objects and Reasons that has been placed along with the bill, sir. So the bill speaks of its history, of its genesis, as to how this bill has come forward and what the Government of India intends through the passage of this Act in Parliament, sir. One, there was a memorandum of settlement, sir, signed between the Government of India, the State Government of Meghalaya and the Archik National Volunteers Council, the NVC, back in 2014. With that memorandum of settlement, sir, that was signed between the tripartite agreement that was signed between the three parties, it was intended that the number of seats in the district councils would be increased. And number two, sir, the 73rd Amendment in 1992 and the 74th Act Amendment in 1992 not being applicable in the 6th Schedule area, sir, the Government of India, seeing the gap between the district council and the traditional institutions in the state, they are trying to bring somewhat a system that will bridge the gap, which, as per the Statement of Objects and Reasons, seems to be a replica of the Parliament Panchayati Raj institutions that could not be made applicable in the state due to the non-application of the 73rd and the 74th Amendment in the state, sir. Therefore, sir, the bill talks on these broad aspects. One, on the increase in the number of seats in district council. Number two, of trying to bring village institutions similar to the Panchayati Raj in our state, sir. Now, sir, with these broad intentions, now going through the bill, we can also see that there are several major amendments which have already been highlighted in the floor of this House earlier, sir. And today, as we read the bill, we can see that there are several new features that makes it a unique exercise on behalf of the Government of India, which is seen as an attempt also to overhaul the existing district councils. So, I would like to place the main features of this bill as I can, whatever points that I can pick up from the bill, sir. Number one, sir, any member of the district council who is elected as an MP or an MLA will automatically cease his council membership within 14 days of being elected. That's number one. Number two, sir, there are special provisions in the bill which allows, if the state government and the district council agree, because the word may has been included in the bill, sir, the district councils may provide, number one, 1/3 reservation of seats for women, which in fact, sir, now speaks about women reservation in district councils. This is the main bill. Number two, the district councils can now have qualifications for being elected as members of the council. Number 3, sir, the council can now have rules for disqualification. I think as a lot of people were talking about disqualification of members of district councils, I think this is an option for the state government now, sir, to move forward with it. The district planning committees will be in place for developmental plans. A state finance commission would be in place for the devolution of resources between the state and the district councils, so that whatever problems we are seeing now in the devolution of financial resources between the state and the district councils, the non-payment of salaries, the kind of problems that especially the Garo Hills District Council is facing through, perhaps that will be resolved with the establishment of the State Finance Commission, sir. Broadly, sir, these are the features which have drawn my attention. Sir, when we brought this discussion on the floor of this House earlier, we had spoken about the inclusion of the term. Just 1 minute, sir. Unrepresented tribes. So, to this bill, all the district councils will now be renamed as autonomous territorial councils. And in Khasi Hills Autonomous District Council, sir, there will be 40 seats, of which 36 will be elected members, 2 will be women members who will be nominated by the governor, and at least 2 shall be from the unrepresented tribes. The same features we are seeing in Garo Hills Autonomous Territorial Council, whereby here again there will be, I think, 42 seats, sir, there. Yes, sir. 42 seats, 36 shall be on the basis of adult suffrage, and the governor will nominate 6 members, of whom at least 2 shall be women and at least 4 shall be from the unrepresented tribes. And in the Jaintia Hills Autonomous Territorial Council, there will be 34 members, of whom 4 members, including 2 women members, shall be nominated by the governor, and the rest of the members shall be elected on adult suffrage. Sir, reservations have already been expressed regarding the word unrepresented tribes. Now we are saying, sir, the term unrepresented tribes has been removed from the Jaintia Hills Autonomous Territorial Council, but then it still remains for Khasi Hills Autonomous Territorial Council. I won't be speaking for Garo Hills Autonomous Territorial Council, sir, because I feel the honorable members from Garo Hills would like to, knowing the ground issues, would like to express their views on that. But then I restrict myself to Khasi Hills Autonomous Territorial Council, looking at the mention of this particular term, unrepresented tribes. So since it has made it to the final bill, perhaps it has gone with the consent of the state government, and perhaps the government may, in its wisdom, may have done its exercise and also acknowledge perhaps the presence of unrepresented tribes within the Khasi Hills region, sir. So my first point is, what are the list of the unrepresented tribes that the government has listed? Who will be eligible for nomination as members of the Territorial Council when they are in place? I would like to have the list, sir, of the unrepresented tribes so that people will know. That's number 1, sir. Sir, number 2, the creation of the village council, sir. Sir, as I had said, from the statement of objects and reasons of the bill, we understand that the Government of India tries to, or intends to create village councils at the village level or through institutions that will be similar to the Panchayati Raj. Therefore, we can draw the conclusion that there will be election for village institutions as well, for the village councils as presented in the bill. But there's also a rider for the government of Meghalaya, sir, that these provisions may not be applicable to the state of Meghalaya, provided that the governor agrees to such interventions, sir, of village councils at the state. But, sir, slight confusion arose when I had gone through the press briefing given by the Honorable CM on this news item which I have brought to the floor of the House today, where it has been quoted, in terms of the formation of village councils, the Cabinet had proposed that these councils would be elected, but the chairman will be ex officio and the headman, Sardar or Nokuma, will be their de facto chairman. Nowhere it has been mentioned in the bill, sir. Perhaps it may come in the rules. But then here it seems that the government of India or the government of Meghalaya has already decided to go ahead with the village councils being elected institutions and putting the headman, Nokuma and Sardar or any traditional head as their chairman. Now, sir, I think with an added village institutions in the state, considering the fact that we already have the Darbar Shnongs and other, the Nokma shapes and also the other traditional institutions at the village level, we already have the Village Employment Council, another institution at the village level created by the state government for devolution of funds under the MGNRGA and other programs that it feels fit. Now, another institution will come in, which is the Village Council through the amendment, through this 125th amendment of the Constitution, which is the amendment of the 6th schedule, sir. So, sir, my point is whether the government has decided to go ahead with the village councils through election prior to the, as the groundwork or as the kind of thinking that has been going on behind the scenes, considering the press briefing that has been given by the Honorable CM on the 28th of Jan. My question was that, sir. And number 3, sir, talking of nomination, sir, when we're talking about the nomination of the members being of the Khasi Hills or the proposed Khasi Hills Autonomous Territorial Council, 4 members will be nominated, of which 2 will be women and 2 will be from the unrepresented tribes. So, would it not have been possible, sir, to replace the term unrepresented tribes and bring in members from the traditional institutions through our Himas, through our Lingdokships, Sardarships, and the Wahadadars that are there across the state? Would it have not been more better, sir, to give them some space as they represent our tradition, our democracy, our traditional democracy? Because the term unrepresented tribe is so vast that the people from any walk of life can be drawn to the territorial council and not perhaps giving space to those members, to those leaders who have been representing the traditional institutions of Himas, the Rais, the Sardarships, the various ilakas. So this is my point, whether government can perhaps highlight on this particular part, sir. And sir, today in the start question that couldn't come up for discussion, we're seeing that the government has acknowledged there are differences of opinion between the state government and the district councils. So we would like to know, sir, what are these differences of opinion between the state government and the district council, sir, so that we will be able to further debate and discuss on those issues, perhaps which the district councils have aired to their memorandum and meetings. And that will also help us to understand their views better, especially they are the stakeholders, sir. The main stakeholders are the district councils. And since they will be taking this, the implementation of the bill forward, I think it is important that we hear what the district councils have in their mind and their opinions. So these are my opening remarks, sir. And I will request the Honourable Minister to kindly address these issues. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, at the very outset, let me place on record my deep sense of appreciation to the mover of this short duration discussion, the Honourable Member from Umroi, Sri George B. Lingdo. A very important short duration discussion. And there was also a question tabled by one of the Honourable Members obviously because this particular issue requires certain amount of discussion. Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I would like to submit in a brief in respect of the need to have a complete clarity on as to the stand of the state government as we engage with government of India, keeping in mind the whole exhaustive exercise of discussion and engagement that we had with the stakeholders to look at how the proposed amendment of the sixth schedule can have ramification both in respect of giving us advantage or disadvantage, or in other words, even any provision thereof, in as far as the proposed amendment is concerned, whether they come into conflict with our cultural and traditional heritage. Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, if we look at the statement of objects and reasons, we can connect with the whole genesis of this whole exercise by Government of India. Now, the Para 4 and Para 2 and Para 3, they are very relevant. We did have an engagement with Government of India, keeping in mind that the areas covered under sixth schedule, particularly the ADCs, were not privileged to have access to the kind of fund for various responsibility that is vested upon them in as far as fund from the Government of India through the recommendation of Finance Commission is concerned, unlike the Panchayati Raj. And this issue had drawn the attention of the state government, and therefore there has been quite a substantial engagement with Government of India to prevail upon Government of India that we must look at this vacuum of resources for the ADCs. Now, we must revisit the very region based on which the statement of objects and reasons were indicated. I would like to refer to the Para 4 of the statement of objects and reasons. Two memoranda of settlement were signed between Government of India, State Government of Assam, and United People's Democratic Solidarity and Dima Halam Dauga 2012. Another memorandum of settlement was signed between the Government of India, State Government of Meghalaya, and Achik National Volunteers Council, ANVC, in 2014. All these memoranda of settlement aim at enhancing autonomy of the existing autonomous councils, renaming the councils, and increasing the number of seats in the concerned councils. And the Para 2 refers, Para 3 refers, Para 2 and Para 3, that Constitution 73rd Amendment Act 1992 and the Constitution 74th Amendment Act 1992, which are not applicable to the six scheduled areas, brought in considerable devolution of powers to local bodies in rest of the country. In some areas, autonomous councils in the six scheduled areas are less empowered than the Panchayati Raj institutions functioning in other parts of the country. A review of the provisions of the sixth schedule to the Constitution and provision of the Constitution 73rd Amendment Act 1992 and the Constitution of 74th Amendment Act 1992 indicate certain deficiencies in the provision of the sixth schedule. At present, there is no provision for the recommendation of the Finance Commission set up under Article 280 of the Constitution to provide separate fund for the autonomous district councils in the six scheduled areas, which results in inadequate socio-economic infrastructure in the autonomous district council areas. So this is the background based on which this whole exercise by Government of India to amend the relevant provisions of the sixth schedule has been embarked upon. Now, it's a matter of concern, then it has taken so long. We are talking about the tripartite agreement which has been signed in 2012. Subsequently, in 2014, in respect of Meghalaya and Government of India and NBC. Now, The basic contents in the tax settlement agreement envisage to further strengthen the ADCs in sync with the aspirations of our people. Because as has been rightly indicated in the statement of objects and reasons in the proposed amendment, it is very clear that unlike the Panchayati Raj institutions, the ADCs were not eligible to have that kind of fund resources. And pending this amendment, the government of Meghalaya engaged with government of India that even if the proposed amendment required to give fruition to the objectives of the tax settlement agreement, let the government of India take cognizance of the fact that the ADCs require a separate funding. Number of meetings were held. Number of state officers went and had series of meetings with the government of India officials. Government of India understood the rationale and the justification and complied. To that extent that government of India decided to release special fund for development in respect of empowering the ADCs from 2015 and 16. This is how the ADC started getting the fund, which is now being received by all the three autonomous district council, KHADC, Giant Hills Autonomous District Council, and Garo Hills Autonomous District Council. Now, the other issues which should be attended to by Government of India in the form of amendment of this sixth schedule has taken long time. We appreciate the fact that the moment this proposed amendment was embarked upon, there was a need to further engagement and discussion. Because Government of India tried to extend this similar kind of provision in the proposed amendment to other ADCs, not confining to only the state of Meghalaya and Assam. Therefore, we can understand that, okay, Government of India has taken into cognizance about the need to have similar kind of provision for other ADCs. And therefore, I think lots of time have been already consumed in this exercise. It's time to now give effect. But there must be clarity. There must be clarity, and the whole clarity revolves around certain particular areas where there are concerns. There are concerns and apprehensions, in fact. Now, as we look at the whole measures being taken by the government in engaging with the stakeholders, including the ADCs, I think ADCs have given their opinion. Also, the stakeholders have given their opinion. Also, in the whole process, many of such apprehensions and concerns have been appropriately articulated and is available for the government. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, here, the mover of this short duration discussion, Honorable Member from Umroi, has elaborately referred to various other areas of concern, which I would not like to repeat. But here, the issue of understanding the ramification of certain provisions of the proposed amendment. Now, there has been always a concern from our side that will this amendment will ultimately result in dilution of the powers that has been vested upon our traditional institutions which have withstood the test of time, and in the process dilute our whole cultural and traditional heritage. Because as we move on, if we do not look at the likely ramification and the fallout thereof after such amendments are made, it will be very difficult to undo them. Therefore, even before giving a kind of wrong notion before the Government of India and the lawmakers in the Parliament, it is very important to appropriately understand the concerns of our people, apprehensions of our people. Now, there is some tendency to compare our traditional institutions, which are the grassroots the units of self-governance at the grassroots level. And these traditional institutions which have our own laid down, laws based on our traditional and customary practices. I would like to assert here, Mr. Speaker, sir, the customary laws cannot be enacted by us. Customary laws has to be codified. If we want to make a new law, there is no longer going to be a customary law. Therefore, there is a need for clarity on this aspect. Now, here, when we talk about the traditional institutions, the rich and vibrant cultural heritage, the traditional heritage that we have, and the whole customary laws that has been utilized in the whole process of administration of their respective units of domain, of kingdoms, we call it. Now, all the three communities, the three major indigenous tribals have the system, be it the Jaintia Hills Autonomous District Council and the traditional institutions within the jurisdiction of JHADC. So also within the jurisdiction of KHADC, all the traditional institutions. The traditional institutions have their own adopted, and some have even had the privilege of having an enactment of law to govern their own respective domain of areas of the administration under different himas in Khas Hills. Similarly, in Garo Hills, we have the Nokmas who represent the clan. Now, every clan has a Khunglen in Garo Hills. There is a concern from all our clans. Nokma only represent the clan. Nokma is actually the custodian on behalf of the clan to which the Khunglen belongs. Now my clan, Manda, then there are so many clans, Agato, Cheran, Rangsa, Raksam, multiple clans. And all these clans have multiple areas where they have the ownership over the land, the Akhung land. Now, when we talk about administration of that Akhung land, that means the whole responsibility, powers, and everything, as per our customary practice, is vested on the clan. On the clan. The clan decides as to how we should proceed further based on or in sync with our customary laws and practices laid down by our forefathers. Now, to have another body which is mandated by a power through the provision in the Constitution itself can have serious ramification. There will be a parallel power center at the grassroots level. That is the concern and that is the apprehension which our people are expressing. I'm also expressing on behalf of my clan. And I'm also expressing on behalf of other clans of Garo Hills that under no circumstances the power and functions who are the owner of the Akhung land can be diluted by any other provision to be laid in the Constitution. The proposed tax settlement, rather the proposed amendment based on the tax settlement. In fact, the tax settlement which was signed is itself the mandate based on which the whole exercise in amendment should proceed further. And this whole tax settlement agreement has been an offshoot of a long-drawn due diligence and exhaustive work. At my personal level, after having understood the overall nitty-gritty and the complexities of the demand of the NBC, which was expected as an alternative to the statehood demand, we must understand and appreciate the fact that the ANBC, whose demand earlier was for the statehood, agreed to have an alternative to the statehood demand. And the whole tax settlement agreement was structured and formatted in that manner that it becomes acceptable as an alternative solution or rather an alternative to their demand for statehood. And it worked out. It worked out, based on which all these provisions which were incorporated in the tax settlement agreement and subsequently signed on the 24th of September 2014 by Government of India, the state government, and the NDC. And subsequent disbanding of the organization to give way to permanent peace and to close the room for any other opening of any other similar demands in the future, so that we can easily say that, look, the demand for statehood had been examined and discussed, deliberated, and for the time being, we have agreed to have an alternative. Now, 2014, we signed the agreement. This is, I remember when the government, then the state government notified for the district council election, a letter came from MHA saying that the Government of India has received an information that the state government would like to go ahead with the election for the Autonomous District Council in Garo Hills. The Government of India intends to amend the 6th schedule of the Constitution to give fruition to the provisions which were already incorporated and agreed upon in the tax settlement agreement. Therefore, the state government is requested to postpone the proposed election. That was the letter from MHA. And we postponed. But subsequently, that amendment never came. And now it is 2022. So therefore, this too long a gap, we have to understand that all these provision that was incorporated in the tax settlement agreement has been exhaustively discussed at the government level, at the cabinet, in this August House, number of times, Mr. Speaker, sir. You were witness to this, and we all agreed to take. And everyone asked, if this provision is extended to the Garo Hills Autonomous District Council as per the proposed tax settlement agreement, whether this same provision will also be applicable in respect of the other two Autonomous District Council, namely KHDC and GHDC. And we all said yes, because to have that whole provision to further strengthen and empower the Autonomous District Council should not be an end result of only an armed struggle. It should be something which comes out of a proactive decision of the government. Therefore, we decided, since we are deciding for one, and this is based on discussion whether it is acceptable or not, the tax settlement that was submitted before Government of India was only after this was discussed in this August House, and this was all agreed upon. Therefore, I would like to, through you, Mr. Speaker, sir, urge upon the state government. I understand that since the Government of India has embarked upon amending and extending the same provision to various other agencies, they are taking time. Maybe that may be one of the reasons. But I think it is time for the government to urge upon Government of India to wait no further, but to complete the whole process of amendment, number one. And number two, we have said that the whole provision which is inclusive of the proposed village councils should not be incorporated in as far as Meghalaya is concerned. We are a little confused because of the statement that is coming from the government, that the government intends to have that provision incorporated. Please make no mistake that this is not acceptable. This is not acceptable by the clan. My clan will not accept, other clans also will not accept in Garo Hills. I'm speaking on behalf of the clans. If one or two Nokmas and representative of some organizations are saying, they are saying it on their own capacity, on individual capacity, not on behalf of the clan. They have not discussed with the clans. So therefore, please make no mistake to dilute the rich, vibrant cultural and traditional heritage that we have and of which we are proud of. Because the whole proposed village council can be a replica of Panchayati Raj, as has been rightly appropriately flagged by the honorable mover of this short duration discussion. Therefore, with no further ado, Mr. Speaker, sir, I think I have drawn the attention of the government to specific areas of concern and reiterate my submission that people will not accept, clan will not accept. So why we want to create another situation where we will unnecessarily have that whole necessity to further engage and come to a kind of terms of agreement. Let us avoid this in the first instance and make our mind very clear on behalf of the people of the state. I understand that the same feeling is there, same issue has been flagged in Khas Hills Autonomous District Council area also by all the traditional institutions. I'm aware of that because the engagement and discussions have been there for long time, starting from when we started engaging post 2024 tax settlement agreement. The government of India seems to have a tendency to think that since it is going to be kept as a provision for other autonomous territorial councils, it should be uniform to every proposed, as the proposal of renaming the ADCs are there. Territorial councils, autonomous territorial councils. But we also are proud of the vibrant diversity that each of our tribes in the Northeast have. We in Meghalaya have a different system, the matrilineal system. We have the clan system. We are the owners of the land and resources. And therefore, it has to be understood, which is not same in respect of other areas within the jurisdiction of other territorial council. So with this submission, Mr. Speaker, sir, I would like to urge the state government to have a complete clarity on this and would like to further assert that under no circumstances the provision of any provision which will dilute the rich and vibrant cultural heritage and our customary laws and practices should be incorporated here, and there should not be any provision to, over a period of time, dilute the whole powers and functions of these traditional institutions and ultimately pave way for a replica of Panchayati Raj system in our state. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.